Hi there, my name's Renata Carmen. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia in 2014. I've been chronically ill my whole life. Chronically ill means you have something that won't necessarily kill you, but doesn't have a cure. Another example, a few examples I could give you would be rheumatoid arthritis, autism, MS. Those are a couple examples of other chronic syndromes or illnesses, which also fall under the autoimmune disease umbrella, as people call it. Fibromyalgia is one of the most poorly understood illnesses out of these already poorly understood illnesses. There's very little that we understand about the immune system and central nervous system, what they're affected by, and how they interact. We're constantly learning new things every day about this, and most doctors are not reading the latest papers that are coming out, and so unfortunately a lot of their information is behind. But I read those papers, and my primary care physician keeps up on them, thankfully. He's very interested in research. And together, along with a couple other primary care physicians I've worked with over the years, we have tried every single med. I can honestly say I've tried every single med to manage my symptoms. Everything. And I am allergic to penicillins. That includes amoxicillin. I'm allergic to opiates. And I get shoe allergies. That means hives. Opiates. Yeah. So the stuff that works, I'm allergic to that. I'm allergic to SNDRIs as well as SSRIs. I got hives from both of those. Let's see here. Plaquenil, which is another one they use for this, especially for joint pain and sun sensitivity, which are two things I struggle with, which is why I'm so freaking pale, even though I am half Mexican. That's right. To February 2017, people looking back on this will know it was a crazy, stupid time. And I'm proud to say I'm half freaking Mexican, 4th generation. And hey, guess what? Mexican means you're part native. So that means we were freaking here first. And guess what? We came from Asia like 10,000 years ago. So everyone who is in the United States is a freaking immigrant, all right? Suck it. Anyways, taking politics off of the schedule, that is one of the things that affects chronic illness like fibromyalgia is stress and environment. Weather fluctuations are very hard, which is why where I am right now in Southwest Vermont is very hard on my body because we have 4 seasons. The weather is changing constantly. We have mountain weather on top of 4 seasons, so, you know, the weather can change very much. And the barometric pressure fluctuations just decimate me. I'm in so much pain right now because it's been very cold. Excuse me, that was my thumb cracking. It's been very cold, but it's going to be warm. It's getting up into the 50s with 30s at night. And then it's going to be cold again in like a week. This is my vaporizer. I like the Vapor Brothers Vapor Box. It's probably hard for you to see. These are made in California. And so, suck it. Haters, again, sorry. There's just so much craziness happening right now. I can't help but insert political quips into this thing that's supposed to be about fibro. But they all tie together because the things that work for me, like cannabis helps me so much. I have been using it for 17 years. Now, granted, a lot of that time wasn't for medical purposes, but I did always find it useful for my painful periods. Hope that's not TMI, but yeah, my periods like really suck. Those are really helped by exercise and things like that. And exercise also helps my overall symptoms with my fibro as well as my mood and things like that. However, it's really hard for me to do anything if I feel like literal death. I wake up every morning extremely nauseous, stiff and sore, and exhausted. Even though I just woke up, even if I get a good night's sleep, I feel beat up. Like you can see under my eyes. I mean, I got like 12 hours of sleep and I'm fried. I'm so fried. I had to roll out of bed and army crawl to the bathroom this morning. And I'm not saying any of this to get pity. It's because I just want to help spread awareness for these illnesses and the different ways that they can be managed, and try to be a voice for the voiceless, for the plants who can't speak for themselves, for patients who don't have safe access or who don't live in a place where they have medical access or who have the ability to share their opinions and state their minds freely. And that's something that I cherish about living in the United States, especially in a state like Vermont. And Vermont's not perfect, no state is, but something that I love about Vermont is they're very, they're pretty open-minded when it comes to what you do, as long as you're not messing with anyone else. So, one form of exercise I've really been getting into is aerial, specifically via the use of a trapeze that I made at home, which a lot of people think I'm insane to use, but I do weight check it every time. And I purposely have it set up in my doorway because I come from earthquake land and I know how strong doorways are. Where's some wood? I'm a tiny bit superstitious putting it out there on camera. I'm like, of course, now next time I use it, it's going to break. No, but I weight check it every time. And one of the only ways that I can get up and do what I do, have a positive mood, have a positive outlook, and not just survive, but thrive, is through cannabis. And I'm sick and tired of the stigma that goes with this plant, which has been used by people for at least 10,000 years, according to carbon dated evidence, probably longer. It's never killed anybody. The lethal dose is like 1,500 pounds in 15 minutes, which, trust me, is pretty much impossible. You'd pass out long before you ever got there. And there's so many different strains. There's so many different forms. And there's so many different ways to consume it. That's another thing that people don't understand. I talk about medical cannabis use, and they automatically assume I'm just smoking joints and blunts all day. As you can see here, lung health is a concern to me. When I smoke, I try to use hemp wick to light it instead of touching the lighter to it directly, which minimizes consumption of sulfur and butane and shit like that. It also tastes better and burns the cannabis better. I vaporize flower through my vapor box. I vaporize extracts through vapor pens and electronic dab setups. I don't mess around with butane, like, at all. I try to water filter everything if possible. And sometimes I do directly consume through a pipe or a joint, but that's pretty rare. And then people forget about the whole other spectrum about how you can eat it. Transdermal applications, which are one of the best. They're one of the most bioavailable. And if you have problems absorbing nutrients through the gut, like I do, or you have a fast metabolism or a high tolerance, which I also have both of those, transdermal applications are amazing because they last a long time. Again, they're very bioavailable, so you don't need as much, and you get a very strong, effective dose. And it goes straight to the bloodstream, so you don't have to worry about it going through the gut and hopefully getting a certain percent into the blood by the time it passes through the liver and everything. Also, people forget that when you eat it and it's processed by the liver, the THC, which is just one cannabinoid within the plants, is converted into a whole nother drug, which makes it a lot more psychoactive and a lot more potent. So it's very useful for pain. But if you eat it, you have a whole different experience and it can scare the crap out of you. Just remember, that you can't die off this stuff. It's like basically impossible. So if you quote unquote overdose, generally speaking, if you have a health condition, talk to your doctor, blah, blah, blah. I got to cover my ass. You cover your ass. We're all good. But basically just put on some good music or a movie that makes you feel happy. You're going to be ine. All right. Maybe you'll fall asleep and you'll wake up hungry, happy, sleepy, to quote Cat Williams. Those are the side effects. And another thing that's frustrating for me is other plants that are under attack, like kratom, however you say it, which I find to be very useful because it does act on opiate receptors, but it doesn't come from the Papaver somniferum poppy. It comes from a tree that grows in Malaysia and Thailand and places like that, and it's actually related to tea and coffee, and it's very hard to get addicted to, and it's been stigmatized by the opiate industry out there, and has spread throughout the world. And the reason why people have been having problems over here is usually because they mix it with stuff. That's why they end up in ER. But we usually only hear about the illegal, poorly understood drug instead of all the other crap they had in their system. And so there's a lot of misconceptions and misunderstanding when it comes to these Schedule 1 drugs. And it's really frustrating because when you make something Schedule 1, like what the recent administration has done to CBD oil, CBD is another cannabinoid that comes from the cannabis plant. And when you extract it by itself, it's actually not psychoactive. It's the thing in the Charlotte's Web strain that helped the little girl stop having seizures when they tried everything and nothing worked. She's not the only little girl out there that has those problems whose life could be saved from an oil that comes from a plant. Shouldn't we be focusing on that instead of banning it and making it Schedule 1? When you make it Schedule 1, yeah, the states are still going to do what they're still going to do, but that keeps it from people being able to do proper scientific studies with it through the FDA. For example, it makes it impossible. And once you make something Schedule 1, it's almost impossible to get it back. We made cannabis Schedule 1 in 39 or something like that. Somewhere around that time. And it's been Schedule 1 ever since. The most illegal that any drug can be in the United States. Meaning that it has no medical value and is highly addictive and dangerous. That's what Schedule 1 means. That's absurd. It doesn't even make sense. And especially with plants like kratom, whatever, we haven't even fully studied it. The alkaloids in the plant show extremely promising uses for everything from leukemia to wasting syndrome to GI issues. Besides, it's not just pain that this plant could help with. It's very similar to cannabis in that it's got a bunch of alkaloids. There's different kinds that help with different symptoms and needs to be studied. It needs to be studied properly the way other drugs get the chance to be studied. If anything, pharmaceuticals get pushed through too fast. It's like all backwards. And having lost friends to addiction, to pills, and having worked in the pharmaceutical industry, having worked with farm reps and learning how it works, how in most states it's legal for doctors to roll up to a doctor's office with $250,000 worth of a med, stuff them full of $500 worth of catering, and sell them that drug. And they make 1% off that. That's just one farm rep, one doctor's office, one sale. Extrapolate that out to all the doctor's offices in most of the states. Vermont is one of the only states I know of where it's illegal for doctors to do that. So when you walk into a doctor's office and you see signage for meds, guaranteed those were planted there by farm reps. Think of them as little billboards, all right? Most of the time, they're not there because the doctors think they're this great drug that's good for you. They were paid to put that there. It's a billboard. All right? It's disgusting. And I'm really frustrated, and I'm sick and tired of the stigmatism that comes with being chronically ill and with trying to address the symptoms through something non-traditional, like cannabis. and lifestyle and stress management and diet, which all play a huge part in how I feel. And I know, because I've been sick my whole life, what affects me and what doesn't, and what works and what doesn't. And because of all the things that I've tried and logged and all the people I've worked with. And I'm not saying that I am smarter than anyone or know more than anyone. I'm just saying this is the perspective that I have to offer. And I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I'm sick and tired of being misunderstood and people thinking I want pity or something like that. That's not what I want. I just want people to know that there's more than one way to exist, and that you can take something as simple as your central nervous system and immune system for granted. And there's millions of people out there who struggle with things like I do, these quote unquote invisible illnesses, where our immune system and our nervous system are like attacking each other, and we deal with that every fucking day. And we got to do what we got to do in order to not just survive, not just push through this thing that is threatening to destroy us from the inside out, mentally, emotionally, and physically, but to thrive and to give back, to be whole people, whole independent people who do more than just sit there and feel like death every day and just try to push through. And that's not good enough for me. And it's not good enough for the people I care for, and for the community that I've come to grow and love, this community of millions of people that are affected by these things, who don't have safe access to cannabis and things like I do, and who are suffering as a result and being treated with these horribly arcane symptom managements. It's seriously like we might as well be cutting people to let the ghosts out of their blood like they used to in medieval times. Like, they haven't come up with a new way of managing these illnesses in like 50 years. And all these stats I'm giving you, I don't have footnotes at the moment because I just woke up and I wanted you to see what this looks like. And I wanted you to see how cannabis helps. As you can see, I've become a little less inflamed. My frontal cortex is working a little better. I hope that these videos are helpful to you. This is a little longer than I like to make them, but this is important. It's very important. We're at a very pivotal time right now, and I have faith in the millennials and younger, but there's, I feel like, a very big gap socioeconomically and age-wise in the way people look at illness. It's not a weakness, all right? We're not pussies. We're not trying hard enough, all right? I am a tough, bad motherfucker. I used to help push 3,000-pound race cars through tech in 135-degree temperatures at Irwindale. I used to work 12 hours a day and then rave 12 hours at night and do it all over again. I did this until 2010 when my health started falling apart. And then I was diagnosed with the fibro in 2014. And I did have health issues before then that were on and off as a kid. And then I had like a 15-year period where I was pretty healthy until I moved from the desert of California to the Mile High area I was in Boulder County in Colorado. And I think that move is one of the things that triggered the onset of my fibro, besides other things as well. I think that it's a perfect storm of a combination of a bunch of puzzle pieces that brings these illnesses out. They manifest uniquely in each person, just like a fingerprint, which makes them even more confusing for the poor doctors trying to diagnose and manage these things. And I don't blame them. They're stuck in a really screwed up system. I think that we have a horribly screwed up system when it comes to healthcare, especially the way we manage end of life, like transition, birth, and chronic illnesses that we can't necessarily just throw a pill at and fix right away, or put a splint on or something. We're really great with surgery and things like that. But when it comes to these other things, like management of fibromyalgia, I think that we don't know what the hell we're doing. And doctors know that, and they find it really frustrating and disheartening. And I feel very blessed to have a primary care physician who's patient and who's willing to still work with me, even though he feels like he's not really doing much. But you know what? He is. He's validating that I'm not crazy, that I'm doing what I need to be doing. He's a professional with the expensive piece of paper, and he's saying, yeah, the aerial's good, the yoga's good, the meditation is good, what you're doing is good, keep going with the cannabis, keep going with the diet. I'm glad you're not on pills. I'm glad you're able to do this without them. And hey, if you need to use meds to manage whatever you're dealing with, mental, emotional, physical, chronic, whatever, that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying that we should have more options, and that these plants should not be off hands, and that it's very wrong the way that we go about it. And I want to try to help change that. And I don't know what I'd do without cannabis. I really don't. And I'm not saying that to sound like an addict, because I can stop. And guess what? I don't have horrific withdrawals like people do when they stop drinking coffee. Just stop and think about that for a minute. How come coffee and cigarettes and alcohol are okay? How come we don't consider those drugs and getting high off of those? Sugar, meat, those are all things that get you high. Anything you put in your body alters your state of consciousness, being in love, being angry, being sad. You know? Who is anyone to regulate anyone else's state of consciousness unless it's affecting others? And you know what I mean? Who are you to tell me what I can or can't put in my body, especially to manage an illness that I was born with because of screwed up genetics and stress? It's not like I did this on purpose. And I'm trying my best. I'm trying my hardest. And I'm doing as much as I can to not just be a succubus, you know? And if this helps me, then why not? Why not let me use cannabis? Why not let me have safe access to kratom, however you say it? Why are we stigmatizing plants? Why have we been stigmatizing plants? Follow the money is what everyone always tells me. And that's how I'll end this. I just hope that this has been helpful to people who maybe don't understand cannabis that much, to other chronically ill people. I'm trying to put these out with love in my heart, but I do feel a lot of frustration and anger right now about what's happening with the current administration, with what's happening with the world politically and on a global scale. There's a lot of really awful stuff that's happening out there right now. And I feel like I need to fight back in whatever way I can. And pretty much the only peaceful weapon that I have is my voice, either through the written word or through these videos. So I end this with love to anyone who watches it. Whether or not you understand me, it doesn't matter. I just hope that someone out there is affected by this in a positive way, either through reinforcement, knowing that you're not the only one going through what you're going through, or by helping to educate people about the powers of plants and how limited we as patients are, how limited doctors are, how limited associations like the FDA are when it comes to being able to research these things properly, the way that scientists should be able to. And they have the right to do that. And we as patients have the right to choose our form of symptom management. And if that includes cannabis, we should have the right to do that. And it shouldn't cost this huge out-of-pocket expense. It shouldn't be stigmatized. It shouldn't be federally illegal. The people running these organizations, these grows, these legal grows and stuff, they should be able to write off their business expenses like a normal business. They're not, by the way, just so you guys know, because the federal government doesn't recognize them as such. However, they still have to pay federal taxes. I was going to end this on a positive note, not a bitter one. So, love and light to all you out there. Keep up the fight, those of you fighting. And for those of you supporting us, we love you and thank you so much. And for anyone who watched this, whether or not we agree, I still want to thank you for taking the time to watch this. And I hope that I've helped alter your perspective in some way, or helped you to at least think from things in a different perspective. And if anyone has any constructive feedback, I'm always open to that. And I always love to hear back from people in a constructive manner. Thank you very much.